Welcome to Echoes Untold, where we journey through the corridors of history, unearthing the forgotten, the dramatic, and the untold. Today, we take you back to a harrowing event that gripped the world, a Christmas Eve turned into a nightmare. This is the story of Air France Flight 8969, an audacious hijacking that tested the limits of courage, diplomacy, and counterterrorism. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Echoes Untold to keep these stories alive. Now, let's step into the past. It was supposed to be a routine journey. Air France Flight 8969, an Airbus A300, was preparing for takeoff from Houari Boumediene Airport in Algiers, Algeria, bound for Paris, France. The flight carried 220 passengers and 12 crew members, many of them eager to reunite with loved ones for the holiday season. But the festive spirit was shattered as a group of 4 men, disguised in Algerian presidential police uniforms, forced their way onto the aircraft. At first, they claimed to be conducting a security check. However, moments later, they revealed their true intent. The 4 men were heavily armed terrorists from the Armed Islamic Group, GIGN, a radical militant organization that sought to overthrow the Algerian government and impose an Islamist state. Their mission was far more than a mere hostage situation. They intended to turn the aircraft into a deadly weapon aimed at the heart of France. Once inside, the hijackers wasted no time. They quickly separated the crew from the passengers, asserting their dominance with threats and violence. Their leader, Abdallah Yahya, took charge, issuing demands to the Algerian government. The terrorists wanted the release of imprisoned Islamist militants in France. But French and Algerian intelligence soon uncovered an even more horrifying plan. They intended to crash the plane into a prominent target in France, possibly the Eiffel Tower or another significant Parisian landmark. Tension quickly escalated. The hijackers systematically began interrogating passengers, searching for individuals with government or military ties. When they discovered an Algerian police officer on board, they dragged him to the front of the plane and executed him in cold blood, throwing his body onto the tarmac as a warning. This gruesome act was followed by the execution of 2 more individuals, each death serving as a brutal message: they were willing to kill, and they would not hesitate to do so again. For hours, negotiations ensued between the Algerian government and the hijackers. The terrorists demanded clearance for the plane to take off, but Algerian officials hesitated. Allowing the flight to leave meant endangering French civilians, but keeping it grounded meant more potential bloodshed. French intelligence, closely monitoring the situation, urged Algeria to allow the plane to depart. They believed that handling the crisis on French soil would give them greater control over the outcome. However, the Algerian government refused, leading to a diplomatic standoff. Inside the aircraft, fear and uncertainty gripped the passengers. The hijackers, growing impatient, resorted to psychological warfare. They forced passengers to chant Islamic prayers, and any resistance was met with severe beatings. The flight crew, led by Captain Bernard Delhemmer, displayed remarkable courage, trying to keep the passengers calm while subtly resisting the hijackers' orders. After more than 30 hours of negotiations and escalating violence, the Algerian government finally agreed to let the plane leave, citing the need to refuel in France. The hijackers believed their demands were being met, but in reality, the French government had devised a plan. As Flight 8969 took off, its destination was not Paris, but Marseille, where the elite French counterterrorism unit, GIGN, Groupe d'Intervention de la Gendarmerie Nationale, was preparing for action. Upon landing at Marseille-Provence Airport, French authorities played for time. They stalled refueling efforts while GIGN commandos meticulously studied the Airbus's layout, coordinated tactics, and rehearsed their assault. Intelligence suggested that the hijackers had rigged the aircraft with explosives, making any sudden attack extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, the hijackers grew more agitated. They ordered the plane to be refueled immediately, suspecting a deception. But by now, the French had made their decision: they would not let the plane take off again. On the evening of December 26, after 48 hours of tension, the commandos launched their daring operation. In a carefully orchestrated assault, heavily armed GIGN operatives stormed the aircraft from multiple entry points, using explosives to breach the doors. The hijackers retaliated fiercely, opening fire and attempting to set off explosives. The plane became a war zone, with bullets piercing seats and fuselage walls. The battle was intense, lasting nearly 20 minutes as GIGN forces systematically took down the terrorists. 3 hijackers were killed almost instantly, while the 4th, still resisting, was neutralized shortly after. When the gunfire finally ceased, all 220 passengers and 12 crew members were alive. Many sustained injuries, but miraculously, no hostages were killed during the raid. The mission was an astounding success. The hijacking of Flight 8969 remains one of the most daring counterterrorism operations in aviation history. It highlighted the skill and precision of the GIGN, whose meticulous planning prevented a potential catastrophe. It also marked a turning point in how governments responded to airline hijackings. Security measures for international flights were drastically overhauled in the wake of this incident, paving the way for stricter screenings, fortified cockpit doors, and improved crisis response protocols. The GIA, despite this failure, continued to carry out terrorist activities throughout the 1990s. However, by the early 2000s, the group had largely disintegrated due to crackdowns from Algerian and international forces. For the survivors of Flight 8969, the memories of those terrifying hours remained indelible. Many struggled with post-traumatic stress, yet they also expressed profound gratitude for the bravery of the GIGN operatives who risked their lives to save them. Echoes Untold, where history whispers, and we listen. The story of Air France Flight 8969 is not just about terrorism or heroism, it's about the fragility of life and the resilience of those who refuse to be victims. What happened over those tense 48 hours changed the course of counterterrorism tactics forever. If you found this story compelling, make sure to like, share, and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to Echoes Untold for more gripping tales from history. Fact-checked note and sources. This account of Air France Flight 8969 has been carefully researched from reliable sources, including government reports, eyewitness testimonies, and historical analyses. Sources: GIGN, the French Counter-Terrorism Unit, National Gendarmerie Report, the hijacking of Air France Flight 8969 inches Aviation Safety Network, eyewitness interviews and survivor accounts, various news reports. History echoes through time. We just have to listen. See you in the next episode of Echoes Untold.